Welcome. I'm Doug Morgan, and you're listening to Uncommon Sense, where we hunt for the truth in the topics you're not supposed to talk about, Christianity and politics. And it's time for our Fear of Missing Out report. Yes, every Friday here on the podcast, we bring you the stories of the week that you should probably know about. Some of you might have heard about. We go maybe a little more in depth than other outlets. But we don't want you to have that fear of missing out, so we bring you the stories of the week. And this week, we have a number of good news stories, a few concerning ones thrown in there, but we're going to start out with a good one. President Donald Trump said on Tuesday that the 145% tariff on China won't stay that high, signaling a potential easing of tensions after Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent warned against a prolonged trade war with the communist country. Now, this comes from the Daily Wire, and they report that during a press conference at the White House, Trump acknowledged that the 145% tax on Chinese imports is very high, adding, quote, "It won't be anywhere near that high." The president did not say when the tariff rate could drop or if he was waiting for China to agree to any deal in return for the lower tariff. But he did say that it will come down substantially, but it won't be zero. Trump's comments come after Bessent told investors in a closed-door summit on Tuesday that a trade war against China was unsustainable. This is reported by Bloomberg. Bessent reportedly added that he is hopeful that the tension between the United States and China will ease in the coming months as the two countries seek to work out a deal. He urged those in attendance to remain patient as a comprehensive deal with China could still take 2 or 3 years, according to him. The Trump administration landed on a 145% tariff on Chinese imports after multiple rounds of retaliatory moves between the two countries, and includes a 20% tariff that Trump placed on China in February, citing its role in the fentanyl trafficking. And China has hit back at the United States with a 125% tariff on U.S. goods. Stocks, of course, and the U.S. dollar jumped following Bessent's remarks. Asked about the Treasury Secretary's comments, Trump acknowledged that the stock market was up, but did not say if he agreed with Bessent that the trade war with China is unsustainable. This according to the Associated Press. Quote, "We're going to be very nice," Trump added. "We're going to be very nice, and we'll see what happens. But ultimately, they have to make a deal, because otherwise, they're not going to be able to deal with the United States." White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt said on Tuesday that 18 countries have submitted trade proposals to the president following Trump's Liberation Day tariffs, which affected nearly every country in the world. This week alone, Trump's trade team, which includes Bessent and Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, has meetings with 34 countries, according to Leavitt. On Monday, China warned that it would punish countries that agreed to trade deals with the Trump administration, saying the United States, quote, "has abused tariffs on all its trading partners under the banner of so-called reciprocity, while at the same time forcing all parties to start so-called reciprocal tariff negotiations with it." So that's good news. Like I say, there's a lot of different things that are happening because of the tariffs right now, and a lot of those are not good, particularly when it comes to the economic side of things. And Trump needs to have the economic side of things go well, because if there's one thing that can derail a presidency, it is a recession or economic downturn. But more good news when it comes to Donald Trump. President Trump, his counterterrorism operation has been humming in its first 3 months of the second administration. Get this, taking out 74 terrorist leaders who were planning attacks on United States soil. This according to the National Security Advisor Mike Waltz. Among those neutralized in Trump's airstrikes were terrorists from Al-Qaeda, Al-Shabaab, and ISIS. None of the 74 terrorists taken out by Trump-approved strikes were being pursued by the Biden administration. None of them. Okay? I mean, that's quite a statement. The Biden administration had none of these guys on their radar. Waltz told Just the News this, and he said that the Biden administration's failure to find these terrorist leaders and its lack of border security created an incredibly dangerous situation that the Trump administration is seeking to fix. Quote, I can tell you from ISIS to Al-Qaeda to groups like Al-Shabaab, all have plots and plans to hit the homeland once again. And if you look under the Biden administration with a wide open border that was incredibly dangerous, President Trump has eliminated 74 named terrorist leaders that the Biden administration wasn't going after. You add to that 45 Americans who are being held hostage by various regimes and groups around the world that he's brought home, and that is just an incredible achievement in just the first couple months. In March, a top ISIS leader was killed in a precision airstrike in Al-Anab, Adbar province of Iraq. A senior military leader of a terrorist group affiliated with Al-Qaeda was taken out in a separate strike in Syria in February. And on February 1st, a U.S. Africa command operation took out 13 high-ranking Islamic State operatives along with an attack planner. Quote, Americans should sleep better at night, Waltz added. We're only 3 months in, and look at the results President Trump is getting. The mainstream media doesn't want to talk about those. And so guess what? We are, because that's what we do. We talk about the things people don't want to talk about, right? Well, Trump has also ramped up strikes against the Houthi terrorists in the Middle East, vowing to protect U.S. military and commercial ships. On Tuesday, Trump announced that he was ordering more U.S. forces equipped for combat into the Middle East to enhance the defensive capabilities available to United States forces and facilitate necessary military actions, as he put it. The continuing pressure on the Houthis and other radical Islamic terrorists in the Middle East comes as Trump administration is also seeking to negotiate a nuclear deal with Iran, which funds the Houthis, of course. The president is hoping to bring more stability in the Middle East after Hamas terrorists attacked Israel on October 7th of 2023, killing more than 1,200 people and taking hundreds hostage, including Americans. So yeah, that again, a bit of good news there as well. And here's kind of an interesting bit of good news, I guess you could call it. I don't know. It's kind of maybe up to you. But the World Economic Forum, you remember them, right? They are investigating its former leader and founder, Klaus Schwab. He's kind of the if you've seen him, he kind of looks like just about any villain in a 1980s movie with the German accent and everything. I mean, he really does. But they're investigating this founder and former chairman over whistleblower complaints of unethical conduct and misappropriating organizational funds. Schwab stepped down as chair and as a member of the board of trustees on Monday, just days after the board received an anonymous letter with allegations against Schwab and his wife. His wife is Hildy, is her name. And this according to the Wall Street Journal. Now, Schwab had announced earlier this month that he planned to resign as the non-executive chairman of WEF by January of next year amid an investigation into the WEF's workplace culture. The earlier probe into the World Economic Forum's workplace culture also implicated Schwab, but The WEF said that the allegations against him were not substantiated, and Schwab and his wife have denied all allegations against them in both probes. The letter stated that it is from current and former employees of the WEF, and the letter said, quote, "We feel compelled to share a comprehensive account of systemic governance failures and abuses of power that have taken place over many years under the unchecked authority of Klaus Schwab." Now, the letter included accusations against Schwab's, such as using WF funds to pay for massages, setting token messages in ritzy spots around the world to justify the use of WE funds for vacations, and using WEF property as personal getaways. So, yeah, definitely looks like some abuse of power here. Well, the WEF board said it is unanimously supported an investigation, quote, following a whistleblower letter containing allegations against former chairman Klaus Schwab. This decision was made after consultation with external legal counsel. And the WEF takes, quote, these allegations seriously, but they remain unproven and will await the outcome of the investigation to comment further. And this is what the board said. Now, Schwab, who denied a request to address the allegations to the board personally, said through a spokesman that he planned to file a lawsuit against whoever is responsible for the letter and anybody who spreads these mistruths, as he put it. Schwab announced his plans to eventually leave WEF earlier this month, but the letter expedited his departure from the organization he founded. Quote, following my recent announcement, and as I enter my 88th year, I have decided to step down from the position of chair and as a member of the board of trustees with immediate effect. This is what Schwab said in his statement on Monday. Schwab's departure comes amid an exodus of other top executives at the group as it grapples with an investigation and accusations of a workplace culture that ignored discrimination against women and black people. Again, this is not a great group. if you've listened to the podcast before, you know that we've hit on the WEF and how their main goal is basically one world government. They definitely bring in a lot of high powered people with a lot of money and this type of thing. A lot of CEOs and the types, but they are definitely not looking good at this point, at least with their former leadership. So we'll keep an eye on that and see how that goes. Well, again, another bit of good news. Facebook's parent company, Meta, said that 2 posts that included misgendering were not a violation of its policies, and in a case that appears to have involved content from the Daily Wire and others. The social media giant's oversight board ruled that 2 posts about trans-identifying males do not violate the company's hate speech rules. That's good, right? Back in September, Meta's oversight board announced it was looking into 2 posts from last year that involved videos of trans-identifying males. One of the posts appears to be a video posted by Libs of TikTok on Instagram that showed an Oregon high school boy getting booed by the crowd when he finishes first place in the girls' 200-meter race. Quote, he's a boy who thinks he's a girl, Libs of TikTok captioned the post. And around the same time, the Daily Wire posted the same video on Instagram using male pronouns for the trans-identifying high schooler. The other post was a post posted to Facebook showing a girl confronting a trans-identifying male in a women's bathroom and expressing her discomfort. The video was likely taken by Peyton McNabb, a female high school athlete who was seriously injured in 2022 when a trans-identifying volleyball player spiked the ball at her head. Both posts were reported for hate speech and bullying and harassment multiple times, but Meta left both posts up, deciding that neither violated Meta's community standards. Now, users who reported the posts then appealed to the oversight board. However, on Wednesday, the board ruled in favor of Meta's original decision to leave both posts up, ruling by the oversight board on specific posts are considered binding for the company. So there's no other avenue for them to go. This is the final decision, basically, right? Well, quote, the hate speech policy does not include misgendering as a form of prohibited attack. This is what the oversight board noted when it announced that it was looking into the videos. The move is the latest victory, of course, for conservative users. As Meta says, it is working to dial back censorship, including those on gender identity. Earlier this year, Meta founder Mark Zuckerberg announced sweeping changes to his company's content moderation policies, promising, quote, more speech and fewer mistakes. So they're already calling those mistakes. Now, in recent years, another quote here, in recent years, we've developed increasingly complex systems to manage content across our platforms, partly in response to societal and political pressure to moderate content. And this approach has gone too far, Meta said. Of course, he's referring to the fact that the Biden administration and others put a lot of pressure on the social media companies to do this kind of censorship. Quote, we want to fix that and return to that fundamental commitment to free expression, the company said. Now, the company also said it will be getting rid of a number of restrictions on topics like immigration, gender identity, and gender that are the subject of frequent political discourse and debate. And it will also recommend more political content if a user has indicated they are interested. The Meta has been fiercely criticized, though, in recent years for censoring political content, such as the Hunter Biden laptop story, which broke just before the 2020 election. But it looks like they are turning the right direction, and this is good news. This is what you need to see from social media companies. Now, what you don't need to see is things like this next story. This is an investigation that took place, and Daily Wire reports that medical schools nationwide are forcing students to promote left-wing ideologies on race, gender, and obesity at the expense of proper patient care, according to a watchdog report released on Thursday. The comprehensive investigation produced by a nonprofit group, Speech First, examined 54 public medical schools across the United States, seeking to document how diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI, mandates are being enforced throughout medical education. Quote, this ideological conformity is required not only of students, but also of faculty, who are often tasked with serving as enforcers of these mandates. This is what the report explains, noting that the ideological requirements beginning as early as the admissions process. Now, here's some disturbing numbers. The report, first obtained by National Review, found that 99% of America's top medical schools now mandated commitments to racial justice ideology, while 89% did so for gender ideology. The report found 30% of the examined schools mandate a form of weight inclusivity. Yes, so it's kind of the body positive type thing. It's instructing future doctors to avoid fat phobia, as they put it, despite the heaps of medical evidence establishing the correlation between obesity and health risks. Basically, these medical schools are just saying, hey, you just need to not address it at all. These DEI commitments manifest through mandatory courses, rotations, orientation statements, and policies, and even the Hippocratic Oath, if you really get right down to it. As examples, dozens of investigated schools emphasize the impact of white privilege and systemic oppression on medical treatment, and have students' guidelines enforcing adherence to a patient's preferred pronouns rather than their biological sex. So as a medical student, you're not to look at their actual sex, just what they identify as. At the University of Texas at Austin, here's some examples for you. Medical students are taught to avoid stigmatizing language, replacing terms like overweight and obese with euphemisms such as people with large size. Yeah. While the University of Vermont's program explicitly states that weight is not an important indicator of health. It's not. That's what they say. It's not an important indicator of health. These are doctors, okay? The University of Connecticut, for example, medical students must pledge to work actively to identify and mitigate my own biases, as it's put, and specifically work to dismantle policies that perpetuate inequities, exclusion, discrimination, and racism, according to the documents obtained by Speech First. I mean, if I was a student with this kind of stuff, I'd say, okay, I'm going to work to dismantle DEI, because that would fall within that. Probably get kicked out of medical school, but the University of Arizona requires students to gain experience in transgender medicine, where students are instructed that gender transitioning in children is normal, beginning with social changes in pre-adolescence and progressing to puberty suppressing medications, unquote. Well, several harassment policies at medical schools now explicitly prohibit, quote, misgendering, with OHSU, that's the Oregon Health and Science University, classifying it as a form of harassment subject to disciplinary action. So you can have a disciplinary action if you misgender someone. Medical school facility face similar ideological pressures as the University of Illinois Chicago's facility manual states that, quote, all college of medicine facility, regardless of track or rank, are expected to demonstrate a commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. Yeah, I would not be signing that. The report identified multiple cases where medical professionals face serious professional consequences for questioning these ideologies, including Dr. Alan M. Josephson, who was demoted and ultimately terminated from the University of Louisville after criticizing transitioning treatments for children during the 2017 Heritage Foundation panel, despite a stellar record, as they put it, according to the nonprofit. Now, the investigation details how this ideological enforcement begins before the student is even admitted to the medical school. The University of Missouri asks applicants how they will contribute to the overall diversity of the medical school and foster an inclusive learning environment, functioning as what Speech First characterizes as a political litmus test. Well, students, as well as faculty who question these mandates, risk significant consequences. There was a former University of Virginia medical student who was banned from campus after questioning a presentation on microaggressions during a 2018 panel, and after challenging the concept, he was flagged by faculty as antagonistic, leading to disciplinary action. Well, Speech First study found that even the Hippocratic Oath has been modified at several universities, with the University of Connecticut School of Medicine recently updating the oath to reflect an anti-racist narrative. This is here's the quote here. It says, "I will work actively to identify and mitigate my own biases so as to treat all patients and coworkers with humility and dignity. I will strive to promote health equity. I will actively support policies that promote social justice and specifically work to dismantle policies that perpetuate inequities, exclusion, discrimination, and racism." That's the updated oath. Now, the report concludes with recommendations for legislative action, including banning mandatory ideological activism courses and ensuring medical curricula prioritize science-based teachings over political-driven health ideologies. Quote, if this continues, I'm horrified we're getting doctors who will shove kids into gender chaos, favor race over health, and lie to obese patients, endangering us all for the deranged fringe. This is a quote from Jared Gould, who's a research fellow for Speech First, and said that to National Review. So again, I mean, this is just another step in the wrong direction for the medical community, a community that has lost so much trust from the American people. And again, just this is why people don't trust the doctors right now. And I'm not saying that all are bad. I'm not saying all are on the wrong track. I'm saying the medical industry as a whole has lost a lot of trust, and this is just another example of why they have, and they need to turn this kind of stuff around instead of thinking of, listen, if it's my doctor thinking of me and what is best for my health. They're thinking of what my skin color is and what's best for DEI. So that's just not what I want my doctor. I don't want to pay my doctor to do, just to be totally honest with you. But again, so let's go back to some good news. And this one comes from the Justice Department. Pam Bondi, of course, is the head of that department. And she's come out with some stuff this week. The Justice Department this week slashed millions of dollars in grant funding for leftist organizations studying things like toxic masculinity and systemic racism, as Attorney General Pam Bondi pushes to cut government waste. Again, the Daily Wire reports that before the cuts, which were described as Wave 1, millions of taxpayer dollars were going towards initiatives like filming black police officers in the name of racial equity, looking for ways to resolve drug crimes outside of the judicial system, and adding so-called toxic masculinity, according to a list of several cut programs viewed this week. Now, teasing the cuts on Wednesday, Bondi said that there would be more to come. So that's awesome. The first wave included cuts to over 360 programs and grants that were determined not to be in line with President Trump's law and order agenda, according to the Justice Department. Organizations were funding was cut. Will have 30 days to win back their funding if they can actually prove it, that it helps victims of crime, as opposed to being a nebulous slush fund for vague liberal causes, which is basically what things have been here recently. The Justice Department said programs that do things like provide housing to domestic violence victims and provide opioid treatments will not be cut. And one specific grant spent $1.5 million toward a training program that included the creation of a powerful 17-minute film documenting the journey of 3 black police leaders to promote racial equity in police practice. That's what the film was about. We spent $1.5 million on that 17-minute film. Another $1.5 million was going to an organization for culturally and linguistically specific, trauma-informed, and accessible services for former justice-involved individuals, as they put it. Justice-involved, criminals, right? It's a euphemism used by leftists for criminals, so let's just call it as it is. Another $1 million had been allocated to bridge sociological contexts by working with culturally specific community-based organizations, while a whopping $5 million was going to an organization that promoted racial equity in victim services and hosts listening sessions in targeted communities. $5 million for that. Is that what you want to spend your money on? I don't. Well, several of the cut programs dealt with drug crimes, including one that appeared oriented toward letting drug offenders off the hook. A $1 million grant sent toward an organization that pushed an innovative approach to resolving drug crimes away from the court system. Yeah, good luck with that. Another sent $1 million to an organization looking at how universal service delivery could migrate the impact of systemic racism on drug diversion programs. Lots of fun words, so you don't know what they're doing, but it's just all bad. And they're getting cut, so that's good, right? Yet another grant on the chopping block was $2 million given to a feminist, culturally specific nonprofit organization to address structural racism and toxic masculinities. Yeah. These programs were flagged with the help of the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, which is scouring the federal department for partisan programs and wasteful spending. So that's really good. You like to see that kind of stuff get cut, and taxpayer dollars get used in a good way. Well, let's end things here with a really good kind of a feel good story here. A Michigan man who became stuck up to his waist in quicksand on the Lake Michigan beach emerged without injuries and with a new girlfriend. yeah. Traverse City resident Mitchell O'Brien and Brianne Sicka said they were searching for Leland blue stones at Reynolds Street Beach when O'Brien took a wrong step about 5 feet past the shoreline and sank into the sand. He said his left leg, he just couldn't move it. It was just stuck. He said it was crazy, like somebody was holding it or something. O'Brien and Sicka are co-workers from the 217 Recovery Center Clinic in Traverse City, who had only recently started questioning whether their friendship could become something more. And so they both called 911 when this happened. And what happened was, at the same time, and they were little ways apart from each other, they both called each other boyfriend and girlfriend. That my boyfriend's stuck in the sand, and my girlfriend, I think, is calling on the other line. And so they literally said those words which they hadn't said before at the same time, and so they are now boyfriend girlfriend. That's awesome. Firefighters, by the way, did arrive on scene and were able to pull O'Brien free from his predicament. So no harm, no foul. Would love to hear from you on the stories of the week. We love to see your comments. You can do that at uncommonsensepodcast.com. I would love to have you subscribe and like our YouTube. And thank you for listening. This podcast is a production of Morganite Communications.